Here is something most people get wrong about battery bomb. You think the countries that dig up lithium, the metal inside your phone, your laptop, every electric car on net are the ones getting rich from it. They are not. Most of the money from the lithium is made after it is mined. And for years, that part of the process hardly happened anywhere in Africa. Now, all the thoughts, because here is the second thing most people get wrong. They assume the world's richest lithium rock sits in Australia or Chile. But somewhere in north-central Nigeria, there is ore so rich that a single ton of it can carry 2 to 3 times more lithium than rock dug from many of the biggest mines on Earth.
The Vice President stated this in Nasarawa State at the inauguration of what is being described as the biggest lithium processing plant in Africa.
For years, that Nigerian rock left the country exactly as it came out of the ground. Dusty, unprocessed, sold cheap, and the batteries were sold back to Africa for many times more. So here is the question this whole video is built to answer. In 2025, the global price of lithium collapsed by more than 90%. Mines shut down, investors ran, the whole world called it a dead market. And it was at that exact moment, right in the middle of the crash, that Nigeria began investing $250 million in an empty field in a village called Endo. Why would anyone do that? By the end of this video, you will see why that timing might turn out to be the smartest part of the whole plan. But to get there, you first have to understand what is under the soil. Running across the middle of Nigeria is a band of ancient rock that geologists now call Nigeria Lithium Belt, a zone of mineral-rich formations roughly 700 kilometers long and 200 kilometers wide, cutting from the southwest up into the north-central state. The lithium here sits inside pegmatites, rock that formed deep underground as molten materials cooled slowly over millions of years. This particular pegmatite belongs to a family scientist labeled LCT, short for lithium, cesium, and tantalum, the signature mixture of rare valuable elements they tend to carry. Now here is the number that might surprise you. The global standard says a lithium deposit is worth mining if the rock contains just 0.4% lithium oxide. Most commercial deposits worldwide runs between 1 to 2%. Nigeria pegmatite average around 3.5%. Some samples have been recorded as high as 13. When an Australia-listed explorer called Chariot Resources tested his Nigerian site, it independently confirmed grades between 2.66 and nearly 6%, several times the world average, verified by an outside company with no reason to flatter anyone. These deposits stretch across at least 7 states: Nasarawa, Kogi, Kwara, Ekiti, Oyo, Kaduna, and Federal Capital Territory around Abuja. Commercial lithium was first reported in Nigeria in 2018, which means this entire industry is younger than most of the firms and cars it will one day help power. At the heart of it sits Nasarawa State, a quiet, largely agricultural state just east of Abuja, now nicknamed Nigeria's lithium hub. But remember what we said at the beginning, rich rock on its own has never made anyone rich. To see why, you have to look at who actually controls the lithium business. And the answer is mostly one country. Lithium is the metal the modern world runs on. The overwhelming majority of it goes into batteries, the one inside electric vehicles, and increasingly the giant battery farms that store powers for an entire electricity grid as the world moves off fossil fuels. But here is the trap built into this business. Mining lithium is the cheap part, the valuable step, turning raw rock into the refined battery-ready chemical that manufacturers will actually pay for happens somewhere else. And somewhere else mostly means China. Roughly 7 out of every tons of processed lithium chemical in the world are made in China. Not mined, made. The mining can happen anywhere. The profit has largely belonged to one country. Therefore, any nation that only mine is locked into the bottom of the business, selling cheap rock, buying back expensive batteries. For years, that was Nigeria's place in the global lithium economy, at the bottom. But here is one more force in this market, and is the one that makes our opening question so strange. Lithium has a wide personality. At the end of 2022, battery-grade lithium was trading nearly 80,000 US dollars a ton, briefly one of the hottest commodities on earth. Then the supply flooded in faster than the demand could swallow. The price didn't just fall, it collapsed. By the middle of 2025, it had crashed by more than 90%, dropping to nearly 8,000 a tons. Mining operations shut down, new projects stalled. The industry had a name for it, the lithium glut. And it was right there at the bottom of that cliff that almost everyone else was walking away, that truck and cranes were moving in Endo. So who was building, and what exactly were they building? If you're still watching and you're yet to subscribe to my channel, kindly subscribe. Now back to the video. Groundbreaking was only about a year before it opened. The government flagged off construction in mid-2025, and by July 2026, the plant was running. For a country often accused of starting a project and never finishing it, that speed was itself part of the message. Now the scale. The plant is designed to process 6,000 metric tons of lithium ore every single day. Over a year, that works out to around 3 million tons of rock moved through its system, crushed, concentrated, and prepared for the battery supply chain. To feed it, trucks carry ore in from the pegmatite field of Nasarawa and the surrounding states. Inside, the rock is crushed and separated, pulling the lithium-bearing minerals and lifting the concentration high enough to be worth shipping into the next stage of the chain. And then there are the people. The project created more than 1,000 direct jobs and over 2,000 indirect jobs in a rural corner of Nasarawa that only a few years earlier had been unstable enough that the state had to work hard to restore security before construction could even begin. On the 2nd of July 2026, President Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, commissioned the plant and declared that the era of shipping Nigeria's rock out raw was over. At the same ceremony, the chairman of Drilling and Commerce said something that stood out. Nigeria, he said, was the company's first project anywhere in Africa because of its government policies. And he called the Nasarawa facility the largest lithium processing project currently operating in West Africa, which brings us back to the question we asked at the beginning of this video. Why sink $250 million into a market everyone had written off as dead? Before I answer that, pause for a second and see if you can figure it out yourself. It sounds backward. Price had collapsed, companies were pulling out. So why would that be the ideal moment to invest? Here is the logic behind this, and it comes in two parts. The first part is policy. For most of its history as a mining nation, Nigeria did what many resource-rich countries did: dug things up and sold them raw. Oil, tin, and more recently lithium. The government answer is a policy known as local value addition, and unlike before, it's backed by reinforcement. Under it, the Ministry of Solid Mineral, led by Minister Dele Alake, no longer hands out mining license to anyone who can't show a concrete plan to process the mineral inside Nigeria before export. The export of raw, unprocessed mineral is being deliberately shut off. If you want Nigeria's rock, you increasingly have to build in Nigeria to get it. If you've been following us for a while, you would have seen this playbook before. It's the same logic behind the Dangote refinery story. A country that exports crude oil for 60 years and imported its own petrol back, finally refining at home. This is the mineral version of that same move. Different rock, same fight. And the money followed the rule. Between 2023 and 2025, Chinese company Endo poured roughly $1.3 billion into building lithium processing capacity inside Nigeria. The Diamond New Energy plant is the first major refinery to become a reality, but the government says it is only the opening move. In the pipeline sits a $600 million lithium facility, also in Nasarawa, a $200 million plant near Abuja waiting to be switched on, and a broader set of mineral processing investments the ministry value at around $2.6 billion in total. The second part is timing, and this is the answer to the question we've been carrying since the beginning of this video. Think about what a crash actually does. Construction costs fall, equipment gets cheaper, competitors freeze their projects, leaving the field wide open. And because a processing plant takes about a year to build, whoever started during the crash is ready when the market recovers. Which means the real question was never what lithium cost in 2025. It was what lithium would cost when the door opened. In early 2026, the glut was ending. Producers who had cut output during the crash couldn't turn the tap back on quickly. Demand from electric cars and grid batteries kept climbing, and the price of lithium roughly doubled inside a few months, pushing back about $24,000 a ton. By the time the market turned around, the plant will be ready. Call it luck, call it foresight, either ways, the timing was almost perfect. But perfect timing doesn't guarantee success, because this story isn't over yet, and from here on, it gets more complicated. Because processing lithium isn't the end of the journey, it's where the real climb begins. What this facility does is take raw rock and turn it into concentrated, high-value materials. That is a real leap up from shipping out dust ore. But the most profitable stage of the lithium journey comes later, turning that concrete into battery-grade chemicals, then into the cathode and cells that actually go inside the battery. And for now, a large share of those final high-margin steps still happens overseas, often back in the home country of the very companies that build the plants. Remember the thing I asked you to hold on to earlier? This is it. China didn't just help Nigeria climb the lithium value chain, it also built the system that sits at the top of it, which means the same companies opening the door into the processing also control much of what comes after. So the real question is this: does Nigeria capture the value, or just the first lower margin slice of it? The government knows exactly where it stands on that ladder. When Minister Lake took the stage at the commissioning, he didn't present the refinery as the destination, he presented it as the beginning. The vision is to climb the value chain from refining lithium to building batteries, phones, solar panels, and electric vehicles, until more of the value is created at home, one step at a time. But there are still real challenges, and it wouldn't be honest to ignore them. Nigeria electricity supply and road network are still under pressure, making it harder to support large industries. Illegal miners also dig up lithium and smuggle it out of the country instead of selling it to local processing plants. To stop this, the government created a special enforcement unit called the Mining Marshals to crack down on illegal mining. And whenever foreign companies invest in projects like this, there is always an important question: who really controls the country's resources? None of these challenges take away from what happened in Endo. If anything, they show why it matters. No country goes from exporting raw mineral to making batteries overnight. It happened one step at a time. And in July 2026, Nigeria took a step it had never taken before, which raises the last question. Once you've built the biggest plant in the region, what comes next? The answer is more and bigger. Just days before the plant opened, the government announced another discovery, this time in neighboring Kaduna State. It described a world-class polymetallic province, a single region found to hold platinum group metals, gold, nickel, copper, lithium, and rare earth elements, verified by the country's official geological agency, the NGSA. In one announcement, Nigeria's critical mineral map grew significantly larger, and the processing plant keeps coming. The Endo facility is the first of a wave the government has lined up, each one another factory that keeps a little more of the value inside the country and hire a few thousand more Nigerians to run it. Now go back to where we started. The misconception was that mining countries get rich from their minerals. They don't. Processing countries do. For 60 years of oil and 8 years of lithium, Nigeria lived on the wrong side of that line. The rock under Nasarawa didn't change. It has been sitting there, 3.5% lithium, since long before there were phones or cars to need it. What changed in July 2026 is who gets to decide what happened to it next. For the first time, that decision is being made in Nigeria, in a village most of the world had never heard of, in a plant that a year earlier was still an empty field. And the truck rolling into Endo every morning, loaded with grey Nigerian rock, are no longer heading for a ship or a foreign port. They are heading home. Thank you for watching. If you like content like this, kindly subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.